arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have finest Massey joining us to talk about Route 66 Comic and Toy Convention coming up this June 22nd. After that, we'll talk with Eric and Julia Lewald about X-Men 97 and their original X-Men animated series. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those of you driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight on the Big 550 KTRS, listening to us all across the area, hello to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. If you're streaming us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to you there. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, we appreciate you finding us and listening to us on whatever platform you found. And hopefully by now you've left us a nice 5-star review. That always helps us in our search engine optimization and something you can do just to help the show. If you like the show, give us a 5-star review. I always say, if you like it, tell your friends. If you don't, tell your enemies. That's how we do it here. Right now, we're going to go to our first guest, the owner of the Route 66 Comic and Toy Convention. Joining us right now, we have finest Massey. How are you?
Great, man. How are you doing? Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. So this sounds like a great convention. And for those of us in this greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, it's not that far away, just there in Lebanon, Missouri. And I think this is your 3rd year, correct?
Yeah, we are really close to St. Louis. We're just a couple hours away on I-44. But yeah, this is our 3rd year here in Lebanon, Missouri.
And you take over, is it the Cowan Civic Center, like Dennis Cowan?
Yes, exactly.
So this will start at 9 a.m. and go till 5 p.m. You've got a lot of great guests. Talk a little bit about the people you've got coming and let the listeners know who they can expect to see.
Yeah, a couple new ones that we have this year. We've got several returning, but a couple new ones that I'm excited about. We have Phil Hester coming, and he's currently an artist, working comic book artist. He's probably most famous for his run on Green Arrow with Kevin Smith as the writer. He's also done, there's a new EC Comics revival. He's got some stories in that coming up. He's got a bunch of Green Arrow covers, and he's done some backups and things recently. But he's done a lot of stuff for DC. The second new guest that we have that I'm really excited about is Javier Saltares.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the co-creator of the Danny Ketch version of Ghost Rider from, 91, I guess. But he's done a ton of Ghost Rider over the years with Mark, I always say his name wrong, Texiera, is that right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
But yeah, he's done, they've worked together a lot. So he's pretty synonymous with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Danny Ketch is still my favorite Ghost Rider, so I was very excited when I saw you add Javier to the list. That was really cool.
Yeah, definitely that whole motorcycle redesign, it's very 90s. He's still a popular character, so he's surpassed the 90s.
Yeah.
We also have Mark Armstrong returning, and he may not be very well known to any of your listeners because he had a very short career in comics, but he is the co-creator of Spider-Ham, Peter Porker.
Yes, yeah.
He did, the Marvel Tales, that was his first appearance, and then I want to say he did the first 5 issues of the main series, Peter Porker, Spectacular Spider-Ham, and then he just kind of got out of comics. But that's still, a pretty cool character to have under your belt.
Absolutely, especially with the Into the Spider-Verse taking off.
Yeah. She has a really funny story that, it's not funny, it's kind of sad actually, that they never told him about Spider-Ham, like Marvel or Disney or anybody, or Sony, I guess would be the more proper. they never told him, and he's not like big into watching cartoons. Obviously, he's an older gentleman, and he had a friend at his church was like, "Hey, saw your name in the credits at the end of a movie," and that's when he found out that they were using Spider-Ham.
Well, I mean, I guess that's one way to find out.
Right?
Gosh.
I'm trying to look at some of our other guests. We have Baltimore Rivas, who is an artist from the Kansas City area. He is most recently on the Power Rangers vs. Godzilla Part 2. Mm-hmm. He's the main artist on that.
Lovely book, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool, it's a cool mashup that makes sense. You know, the giant robots versus Godzilla.
Right.
Kyle Strom is returning to our show. Also an artist from the Kansas City area. He worked on Twig. He was the artist on Twig a couple years ago, or a year ago, with Scotty Young. A really big book for Image Comics. It's a cool book. And then the one that we just added is Ryan Kincaid, and he's done a lot of work. He just did a book for Mad Cave. It's like Hunt, Kill, Repeat about Greek gods. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, Mad Cave Studios is really coming along. They had just seems like they were doing hit after book after hit after book. It's great to see. Yeah,
their latest, the Dick Tracy book. Like it's a really popular book at my shop. Like I didn't expect it to be that big, but people loved it.
Yeah, and I know they're coming out with all sorts of like Johnny Quest series just came out from Free Comic Book Day, so everything old is new again, as they say.
Yeah, Space Ghost is a big book right now.
Yeah, we had David Pepos on not too long ago talking about that Space Ghost comic. It's really selling well from what I see.
Yeah, it's a great looking book too.
And for wrestling
I mainly
fans,
know Space Ghost from just the the funny Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Right, book. Exactly. Not that Space Ghost.
Right. The serious version.
And for wrestling fans, you've got a WWE Hall of Famer coming.
Yeah, Bushwhacker Luke is going to be appearing courtesy of one of our partners, Brian Thompson Enterprises. And he's going to be signing autographs and taking pictures. And like you said, he's a Hall of Famer. He was inducted in 2015 with his tag partner, who sadly passed away a couple years ago. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he had they had a long career in WWF and NWA before that, and all kinds of places. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. And for people who are wondering, I mean, it's going to be one of those ones where there's a lot of local artists and writers. I think you've got 70 or more vendors. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have about 70 vendors and 30 artists. So, yeah, there's going to be a big mix of local, regional, people from all over the state, with some really talented people.
And cosplay groups, Lego groups. This is going to be a good time, and you just do it. It's just Saturday, so if anyone's listening right now, you can go ahead and make your plans. Saturday, June 22nd, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Lebanon, Missouri, at the Cowan Civic Center. Tickets available at the door, or should people purchase those ahead of time?
They can purchase them ahead of time. You can find out more information on our Facebook. But yeah, you can feel free to buy them at the door. It's only $5. Children 12 and under are free.
And the for the Facebook, is it? Could you give that out again? Is it Facebook.com's Route 66 Comic and Toy Convention?
Yes, it is.
So for those of you who are listening to this after the fact, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and we'll have a link to the Facebook page put there in the show notes. So those of you listening, if you're hearing us after the fact, you can hit that link, buy your tickets ahead of time, or you can buy them at the door. Your last thoughts here. What are you already planning? Is it like Jack Skellington? Season your fourth year is already being planned.
Right now, we're trying just to get to June 22nd. It's a all year process, but yeah, we've got some ideas for the future.
Very cool. And so this will be, again, June 22nd, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Lebanon, Missouri. Any other thing you want people to know before they head out to your convention?
I'd just like to say that we're really trying to make this a traditional comic con. We focus more on comic book creators, and that kind of thing. I know that we do have the wrestler and a few other non-comic guests, but we're mainly trying to kind of bring that back. I know it's fun to see all the other people, but we really don't think that comics get the highlight that they deserve in Comic-Con.
Gotcha. Yeah, we appreciate that. As a comic book fan, I know that makes me happy to see. So find us, Massey. I appreciate you taking the time tonight. Route 66 Comic and Toy Convention. We'll see you on the 22nd.
Yeah, thanks so much, and I hope you can make it out.
Well, hopefully so. We'll see you then. Take care. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. There he goes. Make sure you check that out again. If you're listening after the fact, that'll be in the show notes for the link. Hopefully you're hearing it between now and June 22nd, so you can buy your tickets and head down to the Route 66 Comic and Toy Convention. Not to be outdone, we've got my next guests who are on. I had this couple on probably one of my first year that I had my radio show on a different radio station. And I'm so happy to welcome them back because there's a lot to talk about. Eric and Julia Lewald are joining us right now. Thank you both for being on the air with us.
Thank you, James.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to be back.
It's so exciting. And there's so much more to talk about because I know we had you on before and it was almost 8 years ago, I guess, and you had I found you by using the hashtag X-Men Animated. I'm like, I wasn't sure. I'm like, I guess they do a podcast about X-Men. And then I reached out and Julie was like, no, we are the people who brought you X-Men, the animated series. So it was so cool to connect with you. And I love seeing all that you both do on social media too. It's been so fun to follow you and keep track of you.
That's her. I'm a supportive spouse.
I got a very sore,
I can imagine all that. I saw you taking pictures with your phone, Julia, during when I had my last guest on doing prep for social media. So good for you.
There you go. Yep.
So I don't think I asked you both last time. I know, if I'm not mistaken, Eric, you were born in Atlanta, and I know you got into comic books. Julia, you're a California girl. How did the two of you meet? Was it on one of those early projects at Disney Animation?
I wish I were a California girl, but I got to admit, born in Wisconsin, raised in Texas, clawed my way out to California.
Oh, okay.
With the dreams of breaking into Hollywood. This was a long time ago, before the interweb, before any of that stuff. So the 1980s, it was a challenging time. But anyone listening who has done this, took me 10 years to get a break, and that break was into the Disney afternoon writing pool. And that was when they just started going with Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, and then Tailspin and Darkwing Duck.
My favorite.
Once I got a job as a writer, it didn't matter, I was thrilled to write anything for anyone. So animation was where I got my start, and that got me into it. And the guy in the office next door
also came out here knowing nobody. Left from East Tennessee in the early 80s, and in my early to mid 20s, and animation. Hannah-Barbera was the first store that opened. I'd love movies. I programmed movies at the university for 4 years, and came out just wondering where I'd end up out here, and that door opened, and it just boom! It just ended up being the right fit, and so we met at Disney, and we both. It's Hollywood's an odd place, but it's like any place that's a company town. If you want to design cars in Detroit, you can't do it long distance. You have to come out here and make the connections and live it and find out how the real business works, and somehow find your way in the door. But that was I think most people around the world have kind of starry-eyed ideas about Hollywood, and it is all that, but it's also, it's a day-to-day gig. So,
if you're fortunate,
if you can find that way in, it's a job like any other job, and we've raised a family out here,
made our best friends out here, each of us, and also folks at Disney.
Yeah, I love seeing, I know the two of you were doing conventions with Lenore and with Cal and all those people, but now, ever since X-Men 97, it's just gone into the stratosphere again, which as a fan of the original series, I love seeing. And now you've got the new cast coming along with you. We just had Eric Watterson on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago.
With James?
Yes.
Matthew?
Matthew. I'm sorry. Matthew Water. Yeah.
I have to go through a list of names in my head.
It's been a long weekend. So, I'm mispronouncing your last name. I'm marrying Eric and Matthew. So, sorry.
Not the worst thing possible.
But he was, I talked to him about, stepping into the role of Magneto, taking over and finding his... And I mean, my goodness, he's such an incredible gentleman, first of all, but just his love for this series, you could tell when we spoke and interviewed. What was the biggest, when the two of you came in as, supervising producers on the new series, were you apprehensive? Let me start here, because again, my mouth's going quicker than my brain, which isn't too fast tonight. Were you in on the casting process for some of the new people?
Okay. Funny story. Again, I can't believe it's been 8 years since we talked to you, but it has been. And during that time, the dream of X-Men coming back at all wasn't even in the ether. It wasn't even, the rights were still, off in different places. When Disney, Marvel, and Fox Studios, when those rights came together a few years back, it was like, wait a minute, this might not be the craziest idea either one of us has ever had, the idea that there might be some examination of the X-Men in some form. And then here, okay, as Eric said, Company Town, hearing from folks and from friends around, boy, there could be something happening with X-Men. No one knows anything, but, and then hearing from a voice talent, of a couple of the voice talent in Canada that they've been approached, but signed NDA, non-disclosure agreements that are bulletproof, and nothing says X-Men. So this probably isn't X-Men, but they're being approached.
Oh, we all knew. I mean, if they're going to approach the old cast, we knew it was X-Men. And so to their credit, and this started at the top with showrunner Bodemayo. He said, I want everybody on the staff, writers, artists, clerks, support staff, to be a crazed fan of the original. And so when we ended up meeting the people, because they got started well before we were hired on, they got started building this show. So there was like on a Zoom call, there were like 80 people that loved our show saying hello for the first time.
That was amazing.
That was a great moment. So there was that as a gift. And then Bo also said, well, how much of the original cast can we use? We're going to use everybody that's still has the voice is the same, because 30 years later, your voice changes.
Sure. It's
still alive.
Yeah.
30 years, you lose some folks. So they I don't know how many they're going to end up using, 7 or 8 folks from the original cast.
But I think Ron Rubin, our Morph, is back as President Kelly. I mean, the fact that
there's some changes that were made. There are adjustments, like there's a new young Jubilee, but so he was basically trying to be as close respect to the original as humanly possible. Yes. And we had great sympathy for him when we were gone, because when we started in 1992. There were no expectations.
Right.
The people above our bosses at Fox and the other people, and I was, this is not going to work. It's just, and we kind of had a modest budget and a tight schedule. It was kind of this little slap together production. 4 or 5 people threw some money in, and okay, you guys can get this done. And we were all let go after the first 13 episodes were done, because
our work on it.
The creatives. Crew, because they just thought it's going to be a one and done, and this thing isn't going anywhere. Marvel stuff doesn't work on TV. And then boom, of course, it became a huge hit, and they called us, as many of us, back as they could get back. But the point being, when we were doing it, there was no micromanaging or oversight or expectations for us, and when it ended up working pretty well, it was a wonderful surprise to everybody. And so we didn't, we weren't set up to let anybody down. They thought we were going to screw up. Most of them did. Now with the new show, since there's so many generations now of X-Men the Animated Series fans. I mean, the numbers are just humbling. I mean, 100 million people know the show, and they're really excited about this new show coming out. And like every fan we see at a con, the first question is, are these new people gonna screw it up? Is it going to be faithful to your guys? Is it going to be the same as what you did but kind of new? And so they have this incredibly difficult job of doing something new and exciting and that fits in 2024, at the same time feeling just as close to what our show exactly was as humanly possible, and walking that little tightrope in between that. And they did it. I mean, there are 100 ways it could have gone wrong.
Oh my God.
And they got it right. And again, hats off to them. They had 2.5 years of stress about, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And when we were brought on, it was just like a gift to us. It was like, okay, you guys get to be part of it again, which never happens out here.
Yeah.
You never
asked the guys from 30 years ago to come out and help on the new show.
So the two of us and Larry Houston, who was on the art side of the original X-Men series, are back officially as consulting producers, and we have our names in the credits, and it's very exciting.
and just so everybody's clear, the 130 somethings that spent a couple years making this show, they did all the work. We were, as they called it, their first audience.
Yes.
They'd write a story that we'd have an animatic with some voices on it.
Which 30 years after the way it ran in the 1992 days, it's like, this is magic. That you can just, wow.
Yeah. As we said, they had 5 times the time and 5 times the budget, which is fine. I mean, Larry rolls his eyes and his enemies. Oh, if I only had time to fix some of the stuff that we drew, as an all-nighter and had to submit because there was no time to fix it. But the reverse of that is we got to kind of just do our show without any, a lot of creative interference. And the people on the new show, I'm sure, must have had dozens of executives and people with an interest in the show succeeding.
Sure.
And all very aware of every creative decision they made along the way, whereas we kind of winged it.
My big contribution that I'll hang on to was in a single episode, there was a moment where one of the X-Men turns to Beast and says, Henry. And I said, Henry is only Henry Gyrich. Beast is Hank McCoy.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's right. But it's again, they've done everything, and that was the one. Oh, okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah, their stuff was so good.
It's so good.
After the first couple scripts, I mean, our notes were reduced to things like that, or like, well, when we had that scene, because they knew our show better than we did.
Oh my God!
There's so many references to it. There's so much connection to it. It's just plus they had 30 years of new books to integrate. That's what blows our mind.
60 years worth of material to deal with.
And that so surprised me because with 30 years, a lot of the stuff they went back to, because I watched those first couple episodes, and I don't like to put spoilers online because I hate people who do that. I watched it at midnight, and here's what happened, and then it ruins it for everyone else who wakes up that morning. So all I did was I'd put out 4 X-Men covers that reference the stories, and it was still great stuff from the Chris Claremont era and the trial of Magneto, and then they got to go into the newer stuff, and I was blown away how the people threaded that needle and kept it kind of congruent with what the two of you had done and Larry and everyone had done back then, integrating the old books from the 80s, but pulling new material in and new characters like DaCosta and everything like that. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And the fact that the folks, the young ones working on X-Men 97 to a person that we've had a chance to visit and chat with, it comes down to, for each of them, the character, each of the being honest about each character. Because it's easy, look, things blow up. You got the Sentinels, everything's scary. You can make things fly and big things blow up. But the way they have been, fidelity to the X-Men characters in that universe has. Look at us all now, 30 years later. And if I say to you, oh my God, episode 5, remember it. And I'm not saying anything else, but I'm looking at you and I know you saw it and I saw it. And we both are going, oh my God. Yeah. And they earned it.
Yeah.
They have earned what we're all feeling right now. And I so respect that.
And I obviously, I can't imagine Rogue being voiced by anyone but Lenore. Same with Wolverine. I remember, and I know you guys worked on Pride of the X-Men, different from what Cal sounds like on the new series, which I always
actually Larry did.
Larry
I thought the two of you had okay. So all right, but I know Cal Dodd, when I read Wolverine comic books, Cal's the voice I hear in my head.
Yeah.
But originally, when I know we lost, 2020 was rough because we lost Norm Spencer and we lost David Hemblin. And at the time, I thought, well, that's it. We're not going to get one. But the people who have stepped in to the roles, absolutely wonderful. I mean, like I said, we talked with Matthew, and he not only was such a fan of the material and the fan of what both of you had done previously, but he's so good at what he does. And same with, it's just the entire cast, old and new, are brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere I have a photograph from 2018 when we were at one of our first cons, and Ross Marquand was there, and he'd grown a beard. Actor, he plays our Cyclops. Yeah. No, that's Ray
Xavier.
Chase.
No, I'm sorry.
Ross Marquand, our Professor X in the new
right.
97, and he's working on everything, but he was working on The Walking Dead at the time. And he came over to us and just said, "I am such a fan of X-Men," and I didn't
connect him from Walking Dead.
Yeah, because he came around the corner, and then the young woman he was with says, "He's on Walking Dead right now," and I connected, and
her jaw dropped because she's a huge fan.
Huge fans. You know X-Men? He goes, "Oh my!" And so the fact that here we are, 6 years later, and he is now doing the work he's doing on X-Men 97. As with everybody on the cast, it is surreal. It's wonderful and surreal, and it's just a treat to listen to them do what they do.
And if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Julia and Eric Lewald about X-Men, the animated series, X-Men 97. If you're listening, I know we got some people in the chats. If you have a question for either one of them, or if you're listening at home on 550 KTRS, we have the KTRS text lines as well. The text lines there, text your question, 84126. If you're watching us on the video, you can just put your question right there into the chat. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back in just a moment. So again, if you have a question, please let us know. We're going to get to some other questions that I've got, obviously, as well. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Blaze Horse, each sold separately from the Dazzle and her Friends collection. New from Mattel.
The Lego system starts here with the curiosity of a preschooler and the big blocks of a Duplo building set. And as imaginations grow, so does the Lego system, because most every block fits every other block from every Duplo and Lego set we ever made. From preschool on up, our toys play on and on. Lego and Duplo building sets, the toys you grow up with.
I want my block back.
G.I. Joe Snowcat holds 10 Joes, and it's got a missile rack and torpedo skis.
G.I. Joe!
Cobra's on the run! Yo, let's go!
G.I. Joe Snowcat.
Well, hi there, sugar. This is Lenore Zan, Rogue, and I am coming to you from Geek to Me Radio.
We invoked her name, so I had to play our Lenore Zan return liner coming back from commercial break as the dynamic Rogue. If you're listening right now and you might be thinking, we're looking for someplace new to go. It's summertime coming up. We want to travel. May I recommend our premier sponsor, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, the City of St. Charles, historic St. Charles. Always a cool place to go see. They've got this gorgeous historic district. It's all these cobblestone streets and these old buildings that were built back in the 1700s and 1800s. A lot of them are still standing. Missouri's first state capital in St. Charles, Missouri. You can visit that there. They've got all sorts of cool projects and events going on. You may have been to their ice sculpture event in January or their Once Upon a Valentine's Day festival in, obviously, February. Coming up, Legends and Lanterns right around the corner in October, their biggest Halloween festival going on, and the 50th anniversary of Christmas Traditions is also coming up in December. The longest running and largest Christmas festival in the country. You can go out and, ask for what you want from Père Noël from France, La Befana from Italy, or just sit on Santa's lap, tell him you want the new Xbox or whatever it might be you want. It's always a good time. And if you're looking for food, my goodness, the shops and restaurants up and down North and South Main Street, some of the best food you'll ever find. And all these places are small businesses. And we always say in this economy, especially, it's always important to support small local businesses, from the Main Street bookshop to Sugar and Slice, the bakery, going and get some macarons or one of their giant cinnamon rolls that's the size of my head. Cool places to visit no matter what you're looking for. Check out the new Chuck and Lou shop. A lot of cool shirts and a lot of historic St. Louis and St. St. Charles, things to check out there as well. Start the website, whether you're from Alton, Illinois, or whether you're from Chesterfield, Missouri, or maybe you're out on the coast like our friends Eric and Julia. Check out the website. Start your trip there. DiscoverSt.Charles.com. Discover St. Charles. We always say it's an historically good time. Chatting here for a while longer with Julia and Eric Lewald about X-Men, the animated series. I think, I don't know if I started to ask you, because as we've already covered tonight on the show, my brain's not working. Did the two of you get to sit in on the casting process for the new series at all?
No.
But basically, because it had already cast itself.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
They reached out to they reached out to everyone they could from the original cast. And that was such a tremendous sort of realization that these guys they're serious about this. They're serious about honoring the original X-Men animated series, and they're doing everything they can to do it right.
And I know I do another podcast. It's a Justice League podcast with Susan Eisenberg, who voices Wonder Woman. And we had Jennifer Hale on, and this was probably about a month and a half before X-Men dropped. And I said, Julia, I see X-Men's on your resume, but it doesn't specify why. And she just blushed. She said, I can't tell you anything else. And to find out she's Jean Grey, what a cool role that was for her to take on. And again, like everyone else, she knocked it out of the park.
Amazing. There is one moment in the new X-Men 97 that I think is really a wonderful moment where Catherine Disher is now doing the voice of Dr. Val Cooper. Mm-hmm. And there is a scene, and sadly we lost Norm Spencer, our Cyclops, and Ray Chase now does an astonishing job of bringing that character to life. There's a scene where Val Cooper is turning to Scott Summers and just says, the professor would be very proud of you right now with what you're doing. And so sort of behind the scenes, it's like, that's our Jean Grey handing off the torch to it was just a wonderful moment to sort of realize that behind the scenes, and sort of validation and valedictory for the whole crew, the whole cast.
Yeah, my goodness. I know from what Matthew had told me he did, I asked, because I love it when the cast are able to be in a booth across from each other and play off. He said he was not. Was that across the board with the cast? They recorded on their own, or did any of them get to team up at all? Or
I think you'll have to ask the producers, but we've heard at most of the cons that it was pretty lonely. Partly because they got started during COVID, and that puts that's a problem to start with. But
and Lenore and Cal Dodd and George Booza are still in Canada. So that 30 years ago, the old cast was in Canada, and we never got a chance to meet them. We've met more now of the new 97 than we ever met in the last 30 years.
Yeah. People didn't believe it. They said, "Oh no, we met the cast." We spoke to the cast for the first time in 2016 when I was writing that first book, previously on X-Men.
Yes,
and so that we had to talk to them on the phone and say, Hi, Cal. Hi, Lenore. I was listening to your voice for 5 years, and you're reading my words for 5 years. But hello for the first time. And so we met them all or a number of them, 4 or 5, for the first time at a con in
Brownsville, Texas.
Yeah, north of San Antonio, in about 6 years ago, and that got it started. And we've seen them at a couple dozen cons now. I mean, it's kind of grown for them because they didn't know. They're sitting up in Toronto. So, what do you mean? People will send us down for cons, and I said, well, you have to work it a little bit. It's not automatic, but X-Men's still beloved, and we go to some of these cons. It seems like half the people in cosplay are in cosplay for our show,
right?
Like in defense of like the brilliant Batman the animated series, and with the full support of Warner Brothers, or I'll often say Star Trek with the support of Paramount, there wasn't a unified place studio supporting the project that was X-Men, the animated series.
Yeah, once we were done in 97, it was just like, it's not worth bothering with. I know there's a huge fan base, but there's 3 or 4 different companies that have split rights on this. Yeah. So don't even call us about doing something like a book or a promotion, because we'd have to get the lawyers from Saban and from Fox and from Marvel. And we just assumed it was just nothing was going to happen. But then then Disney bought Fox, and so suddenly, boom, boom, they're all together.
And now the original voice cast, I'm so, it's delightful, as the phrase is, that they are receiving their flowers now, that they are getting some of the recognition that they've deserved all through the years, but just had no. Because
it was fun watching. I mean, you assume in our case, they meet us for the first time and they won't quite know what our involvement was, but the fans at the cons before, say about 5 years ago, when we got started and they were the voice cast was starting.
In support
they wouldn't have a clue. Cal, who? You know what? Oh my God, you were. So there was lots of, oh, you were Wolverine. And then they tell their friends, and a line would show up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like say somebody from a live action primetime show that's beloved. It's not like William Shatner walking into a room. Everybody knows what to look for. And
voice. That's true. Voice talent. You don't realize who you're talking to until you hear the voice.
Right.
And somebody could be their favorite character ever, but they don't have a clue what they look like. So that's been fun at cons, watching the sudden realization from people about, oh my God, you were involved in that show. You were him, you were her.
Delightful actor Chris Britton, who plays evil Mr. Sinister and was Mr. Sinister in the original. He tells the story of coming down for a con and going back up to Canada, and in the airport, he was wearing, a nice jacket and a Mr. Sinister T-shirt. And one of the folks at the airport said, "Oh my God, I love X-Men, the animated series." And I was Mr. Sinister. And the person freaks out because he's the nicest looking, pleasantest guy. And then to hear his voice and you realize, oh my God, he's the stuff of nightmares when he wants to be.
Oh my gosh.
That's always fun.
Terrifying. That whole sequence with him and the reveal of Bastion and everything was just terrifying. I can't say enough, and I know the two of you have heard it ad nauseum at this point, that it's just one of the most incredible, not only a continuation of a previous series, because a lot of times people will try to pick it up, and we saw it live action Arrested Development when they tried to bring it back. It was cool, but it didn't have that same spark where this had the spark of your original series times 10. You dialed up to 11, and it's just everyone from the two of you and Larry and all the new writers, obviously Bo DeMeo, the new actors, the old actors, everyone brought their A game to this, and it shows. And I can only imagine what it must feel like for the two of you, where this is your baby, to now see the accolades coming in, see it have such a high rating on Rotten Tomatoes of all places, hearing the fans at these cons. It's got to be just overwhelming, I would think, to a point for the two of you.
It is, but in the best way possible. And it like I said before, it's like a victory lap, it's
and when we did it, even though audiences were larger back then for individual shows, I mean, just because now there are hundreds of things to watch, and then back then there were 4.
Right.
Even though audiences were big back then, when we did X-Men, it was a Saturday morning kids show, quote unquote, and so it was kind of a low glam, okay, you guys are doing this little show for kids, and that's fine, and it's a good job for you and with your growing family, but it's not like it's Hill Street Blues or The Sopranos. It's not like this center of the universe thing or Star Trek. And now it feels like it's Star Trek. I mean, now when it's on Disney Plus and everybody is going crazy about it. We had a little advantage in the first one in that people that came to it tended to be young, and it informed their childhood, kind of like favorite music when you're 10 or 11, 12, 13. The things that grab your heart stay with you the rest of your life. And so we grabbed many millions of people at that age. And so that was a little advantage. But in terms of kind of the awareness in the pop culture world about what's going on, this has just been a rocket. They never would have imagined thinking about nominating our show for an Emmy, because it was a Saturday morning kids show.
Yeah, and it never got nominated.
And it really looks like, from what Variety says, it's the odds-on favorite to win Best Animated Show.
I can't imagine what could take the place. I mean, honestly, I haven't heard who you're up against or what shows you're up against, but my goodness, I can't imagine X-Men '97 not winning.
Yeah.
But again, 30 years later, if the show gets nominated, that itself we are, I think, a little low on the food chain to be included in the nomination, but to know that we are a part of a project that may receive a nomination.
Of course, because it wouldn't have happened without the two of you. I mean, X-Men 97 wouldn't be on Disney Plus without the two of you. I mean, it's
Did we I don't know if we told you the coolest thing we ever saw on the net. This was about 6 months before the Disney Channel premiered was it 2019? They asked fans all over the world, online, okay, here are all the properties that Disney's going to put on. It's all the Pixar movies, all the Lucas Star Wars movies, all the Disney shows and movies,
the TV shows
and movies from all these incredible, world-beating companies that it just changed all of our lives. And what shows are you most excited about Disney Plus showing? And there was a list of 100, and at the very top, number one was X-Men and the Animated Television Show. More than any of the movies, more than anything, but by about a 20% margin. And we couldn't believe it. I mean, when we try to explain to people how many fans there are, again, it's ridiculously humbling to us because we're just typing on our dining room table. We have no connection to this, the size of appreciation for what we're doing. And then to find out the size of this thing is overwhelming.
Okay, let me put something out into the ether here, see if we can't manifest here.
Sure.
Because we're talking to you a few years later, and who knew X-Men 97 could ever happen. Part of, I think, the excitement for X-Men, the animated series on Disney Plus, was there has never been a complete box set Blu-ray release of the series in media in an actual media form. And it would be so remarkable to take the time to talk to the folks who worked on the original series while we're still here.
Because when we did the first book on our own back in 2016, we called around and we just said, well, guys, there's a big fan base out there. Why don't you do, we'll give you all the extras you want for your DVD set free. We're happy to spend as many hours as you want, getting in touch with everybody that worked on the show.
But
it was.
But there was no connected single studio.
And now they've got it. Maybe they'll do that, and that would be very cool.
One would hope, absolutely. Yeah. I know that, like I said, of all the animated series, I mean, people still talk about the animated series X-Men theme song. That's still their favorite theme song, and that's one you don't skip the intro to, which is now a possibility on streaming. No one ever hits that button, I have a feeling. We need to take one more brief commercial break, so if you're listening right now, I know Zachary Nathanson, I did see you in the chats ask a question, it looks like. We're going to try to get to your question and others. We're going to take one more brief commercial break. We'll come right back talking with Julia and Eric Lewald right after this. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
Included and each sold separately. Who has these good night friends? Hasbro has.
He-Man.
Beastman so mad for Battle Armor He-Man.
Beastman, Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor each sold separately.
Take that! Just a dent. And that! More dents. But look! They're gone! Only He-Man has this power. Oh, yeah? Battle Armor Skeletor has it, too. Now the real fun begins.
Battle Armor, Skeletor, and He-Man figures each sold separately from the Masters of the Universe collection. Beastman figure also sold separately from Mattel.
Can you keep a secret? Good. Then come closer. This is Baby Secret. She talks. For a secret, touch my heart. And she whispers. Baby Secrets loves you. I love you, Baby Secrets. Oh, you're so sweet. Baby Secrets. Her secrets are just for you. You're my best friend. Your secret friend. Baby Secrets, secrets.
Hey, this is Michael Bell, the voice of G.I. Joe Duke, Major Blood, Lazy Handy Grouchy Smurf, Wonder Twins, Zan, and a whole bunch of Transformers. And you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Michael Bell, obviously the first voice of Cyclops that I ever heard on the aforementioned Pride of the X-Men series, bringing us back from this commercial break. We want to make sure we tell you about, since we're talking X-Men, we want to make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. If you are loving the chat that I'm having here with Eric and Julia, and you're thinking, boy, I want to kind of go back and get my hands on that Chris Claremont run, or boy, that Jim Lee and Chris Claremont run, or any of the other people who have worked on the X-Men comic books, between Uncanny, Astonishing, Ultimate X-Men, whatever it might be, go give Larry a chat or a call at Bugs Comics and Games. He's right there on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. So if you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, you can get there from either Highway 70 or from Highway 364, get on Bryan Road and head in towards Bugs Comics and Games. He's always buying, so he's always got new stuff, and that's my kryptonite, because I'll go in here there just to get my weekly comic books, and an hour's passed, and I'm digging through a new long box of back issues he's got in. But he's got Silver Age X-Men, he's got Modern Age X-Men, Bronze Age X-Men. If you say, hey, I'm looking for a particular first appearance of this guy, or hey, when did Mr. Sinister make his first appearance in X-Men, he'll pull out that copy of Uncanny X-Men, say, here it is. So if you're looking for it, let Larry know. He can help you find it. If you join the Avengers Club, you start saving money every week on your new issues, back issues, your toys, your games, your bags, your boards, whatever you're buying. And I know I've said the phrase in this economy a few times already this show, but in this economy, save money where you can and keep enjoying your hobby while you're doing it. Make sure that you start a weekly pull list. That way, when I know Gail Simone has been very talkative on Twitter about her new Uncanny X-Men comic coming out, you don't want to miss it. Ask Larry to hold it for you. Say, I want to start a pull list. I want Uncanny X-Men. I want Spider-Man. I want Batman. And he'll pull those aside for you. So if you can't make it out on Wednesday, New Comic Book Day, they're put aside in a rack, and you won't be able to miss those, and you won't miss out on some of these comics that fly off the shelves pretty quick. Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook. Like his page there. And of course, you can follow him on Instagram, Bugs Comics and A&D Games. And he's got some of his stuff up there for sale. So if you're not in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, he can send you stuff that you see on his Instagram page right to your front door. Bugs Comics and Games. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. We're chatting for just a little while longer here with Eric and Julia Lewald about X-Men, the animated series, and X-Men 97. I got to say, I was in L.A. for the big Transformers Con, and I was chatting with Larry Houston a little bit there, and then the next week, it had to be the following weekend, you had your big premiere at the TCL Theater. I'm like, boy, I should have extended my trip and hung out a little bit longer, because you guys were there, the cast was there, you all were dressed to the nines, and it looked like you all had an amazing time.
Oh, we really did, James, and we had the honor to bring as I guess to bring Margaret Lesh, who still lives here in the area, and who is basically responsible for getting X-Men on the air anywhere.
She deserves all the credit in the world, and she was the president of Fox Kids, and she was the one from Marvel who became president of Fox Kids, who was determined to put an X-Men animated show on the air, even at the risk of her own job, because her bosses didn't think it was going to work.
And so Margaret was there in the beautiful 1920s.
The El Capitan.
El Capitan was full.
Oh my God.
And everyone's excited, and the people would come by would say, "Oh my God, you're that Margaret! Oh my God!" Because the one people hadn't expected that she was going to be there, so she just was swarmed the whole night, and we got to live off a little of that buzz, and it was a beautiful night, and we met some of the new cast that we hadn't even met in person before,
and to be in the theater and see any X-Men on a lot, animated up on the big screen, it was incredible.
Yeah,
really
and people weren't quite sure of how it was going to work, that this was the first public showing. It hadn't been on TV yet. You never know till the audience reacts if all your work was in vain, because half the time it is. And the first episode went fine, and they thought, oh, it's like, this is good. This is the real thing. They haven't screwed up. And then the second was better. And the third one, by the end of the third one, everybody was just standing up and cheering. Yeah. And so it was just this living, breathing validation of the work that these guys had put in for all those months.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to do it in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard, That would
red carpet. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
My goodness. Yeah. And I know that Julia's flashed the book a couple times previously on X-Men, which I proudly own a hard copy signed by both of you that I got from your website. I believe Amazon or your website. You said do it now, and you get an autographed copy. So I've got that on my bookshelf. I don't have the new book though.
Well, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Just give us your snail mail and address.
So this I think, if I'm looking back at history right, this was the first clue we had that Fox Disney was maybe considering an X-Men show, because Eric's book previously on X-Men came out, but that was
2017. It was before they had the rights.
So it was a fair use book.
Yeah. Marvel hadn't given us any rights to do this. We just said, well, hell, we were there. We're going to write a history of what happened. And so then we got an email from a big muckety muck at Marvel, and it looked like, oh my God, they're going to come down on us for this book.
Vice President of Global Licensing. It's like, we're doomed.
And so we call him. We say, oh no, everybody in the office loves your book. It's just we've got the rights are back together, and we want you guys to do a big art book now that we can use the art legally. And so Larry Houston and Rick Hobart, who were two of the original main artists on the show, did the front and back covers of the book.
So in the book, again, this is not going to read right, but we got a little bit of everything in here.
Oh yeah,
cells,
original art, the original model sheets, prop list. I mean, it's the previously on X-Men is what I consider the oral history of the show. The X-Men art and making is everything you could imagine behind the scenes that we happen to have kept in boxes above our garage. And then we found out that the art book is often used as a style guide for the folks on X-Men 97.
Yeah, so I think they passed it around and said, I know you guys have watched the show, but here are, because a couple of the artists saved every single model design for every character in every episode. So there is a line drawing in the book of every main character and every guest character of every episode.
Wow.
To go with some of the beautiful color cells and beautiful color artwork. But so if someone literally wanted the perfect reference for the designs, it's all in there. And so that was a great gift. We were more worried about that. Writing. There's about 10 times as much text in this one. Writing that was easy because we did a lot of interviews with people, and that's really finding the artwork that hadn't been thrown away or hadn't crumbled after 30 years. We were afraid that we wouldn't, but enough people have kept, have collected.
And I want to give a shout out to Van Eaton Galleries in Studio City, Sherman Oaks, California. They graciously allowed us to sort of pillage their library.
We use 70 or 80 cells from them without paying them a penny.
We are aware. They, for us at least, appear to be one of the premier. If you want an X-Men animated series cell, that's the place to look.
They always have a couple hundred in stock,
and they're not making any more. And so many of them, they weren't stored properly. They were thrown out. So yeah, that's a bit of history.
Those two books, and if I say check us out online, we can always sell you signed copies if you prefer that, but they're always on Amazon, and sometimes
those aren't signed though. But if we run a little mom and pop shop here, and if you want to email us, xmentas.com, that's our website that has our email address to get to us to say you'd like to buy a book. We will sign it. We will ship it. We do PayPal and Venmo. We can make it happen.
Again, if you're listening here after the fact, X-Men TAS, obviously for theanimatedseries.com, and you can contact them there. And if you like, I know some of you are listening, so you can't see the book, unfortunately, but two great books, and you can get those both right there. It makes a great gift if you know an X-Men fan. If it's, we're in graduation season, or if you get on the email quick enough, you can make it Father's Day gift if you wanted to.
Boy, we'd have to hustle on that.
Late Father's Day gift, that's fine. I know Zachary Nathan said in the chat, said it was great to hear Ace of Base in X-Men 97. Crossing my fingers in season 2 for more music from the likes of Lenny Kravitz, Radiohead, and Pink Floyd. The music was great.
We with Larry Houston kind of look at the X-Men 97 and go, wow, that's what you can do when you have time and money.
And they have incredible composers.
The Newton brothers who
yes,
who've done this. All credit to Ron Wasserman for crafting the original theme to X-Men the animated series. All credit to him. But the Newton brothers now have done amazing work with the theme and with everything else musically in the show. And the fact that they're actually able to license some music, that's new to us.
Yeah.
We never had that opportunity.
There was not a penny in the budget for that. I mean, Saban's idea, Saban, who had a handle in some of the production side of it, was, well, it's bad enough that you got to take one of my composers for 3 days to compose the opening. What you need more music, and in the half hour, just put some bimps and bumps, and you need more sound. So it was always. It was always a bit of a challenge, but no, the new stuff is wonderful. Those guys really have a feel for drama.
But please know, we have no idea what they're going to do musically in season 2.
Right.
So whatever you're hoping for,
we couldn't even spoil it if we wanted to.
So Zachary, we all agree that those would be some great musical choices, though. Any of those bands, Mortal Verse. I cannot talk tonight. Mortal Verse audio dramas in the chats as well. Hello to you. Thank you very much for listening tonight. My Flock, obviously, our friend Chance from Atlanta, Georgia, is listening for the Nostalgic Pod Blast. We appreciate all of you checking us out tonight. As we wrap it up here, I know I was just in. I went out to Phoenix just for the day because Dick Van Dyke was there, and how often you get to meet Dick Van Dyke? But while I was there, I met him, got my picture with him. I go downstairs, and there's George, and there's Lenore, and there's Adrian, and there's Cal. I'm like, oh, the X-Men are here too. And Catherine Disher was there. I'd not met her in person before. But the only one I got to chat with was Adrian, because I walked up and everyone else had taken lunch. But I did get to talk to Adrian, your original Nightcrawler, back as Nightcrawler again, and such a gentleman. That's an amazing guy.
That again, this is just thrilling that these folks are getting together again. Sorry, there goes our home security
And the dog
system.
means our time is up, folks. We'll but real quick, I know we just got a couple more minutes before my outro music starts playing. So are there other Comic Cons that the two of you will be attending we can promote and tell people about?
LA Con?
LA Comic Con it will be, let me check my calendar here.
In early October.
Okay.
First weekend of October. And there's a wonderful event up in Minneapolis called the Uncanny
Experience.
Yes, I've talked to those people. They're great people.
They are wonderful.
And
folks.
they take over this beautiful 7-story 1908 gentleman's club in downtown Minneapolis and turn it into the X-Mansion.
And that last year was their first year doing this. It is completely immersive. It is incredible.
So everybody there's an X-Men fan, and
we were part of the faculty.
And most of them are cosplaying.
Yes.
And so we and Chris Claremont and a couple other folks were faculty there for the 2-day event. But they just did it up right. They're such good people.
So that Uncanny. That will be September 28th and 29th. And then the next weekend after, we're back in Los Angeles for the LA Comic Con, which would be a great place to get your holiday shopping started.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, why not? But hopefully we're doing some more cons here in the area, so I'm have to talk to you both off air because I'd love to have the two of you out along with. I know I've already talked to Lenore and I'm Twitter buddies with Cal as well, so might have to have a little X-Men reunion here in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area.
St. Louis would be great.
Please let your con folks know, and let them if folks anywhere are interested in having us come to cons, please let your con folks know.
We're easy to get a hold of.
Kind of, sort of. May take a while.
We're very busy. That's why I know. Like I said, the Twitter is very active and the social media, which I love to say. And it's great that the two of you are doing that because that really does allow fans like me to connect with people like you who have done such amazing work in animation, the writing that you both have done. And the time's coming up here, I didn't even get to ask you guys about Darkwing Duck or Challenge of the GoBots, Eric, or some of these other stuff. So
Young Hercules, Ryan Gosling.
Arthur Berghart was at that con that I went to, the Transformers con, the voice of Turbo and Copter. And again, I'll go down a rabbit hole. Jim Cummings has been on the show. He loved Darkwing Duck, a huge fan. So I'm gonna have to have you both back on to talk about your other projects here, in the coming months.
Absolutely. We love it, James. Thanks for taking me that.
Of course. And of course, we gave out the website again. It's xmentas.com to connect with Eric and Julia Lewald. X-Men TAS on Twitter as well. And
Instagram.
And Instagram,
We're on
yes.
Instagram.
So you cannot miss them on the social medias.
I'm trying.
It's so great to have you both on. Sincerely, thank you both for taking time out of Sunday night to join me on the show. It's great to talk to you both again. We'll do it again soon, I hope. Sooner than 8 years.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
So yeah, don't wait 8 years.
Take care. Thank you again.
Thank you.
There they go. I want to make sure we thank our sponsors too, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, DiscoverStCharles.com, and also Bugs Comics and Games. Check them out at Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook. Thank you to Joey V for making the show sound. I haven't done a camera turn in a while. So there's Joey V. I turned the wrong camera, didn't I, Joey? Didn't I? There it is. See, there he is. There's Joey. Glaring at me for grabbing the wrong camera again. I didn't mess up too bad other than the talking and mispronouncing Eric Julia's name at one point. Other than it was a smooth show. Smooth as silk. So thank you all in the chat for listening. Thank you, KTRS, for having me stay on the air with you. Thank you to all you listeners. And until next week, my friends.
That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Westchester, New York. Good night.
From ABC News.